everybody. Welcome to our second episode of Conversations With. Today I have the wonderful Lily Caple, who is in the South Shore theater scene, and today we are going to be talking about her high school's all student-directed production of Six. So, welcome, Lily.
Hello.
So I want to start off with a little bit about your introduction to theater. Tell me about how that began.
Okay, well, the first show I ever did, I was in fifth grade. Which talking to some of my friends, I guess I started a little late. I don't know. My 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 elementary school, Nathaniel Morton Elementary School. We were doing a show. We were doing Jungle Book Junior.
Oh, I love
Yeah. And yeah, I was Ka the Snake. I was I was one of like 7 Ka the Snakes. We were all like pinned together.
Why didn't I?
Yeah. It was crazy.
I did Jungle Book, and I was tree number 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my proudest moments. But anyway, continue.
Yes. No, we had to make so many characters because they made the whole 5th grade do it.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So yeah, but that was super fun, and that was, I guess, my introduction to it. And then in middle school, we're lucky to have great theater in Plymouth Public Schools, and funding for it and appreciation for it. So middle school, we did Peter Pan. I was in the ensemble for that. I was a little problematic, a brave girl.
Yeah.
A brave girl, yeah. And then 7th grade, what was 7th grade? 7th grade was Aladdin.
Nice.
And I played Jasmine.
That's great.
Yeah, so that was I think the first time that I really found my confidence in singing and performing and stuff, and it was so much fun. And then 8th grade, COVID hit, and we ended up just doing a small cabaret. But since then I've done everything in high school, everything that they've offered, and then I started taking classes at the company theater, and then I started doing shows with them. I started with their Alice in Wonderland immersive experience thing that was outside. Yeah. And then Matilda was my first musical with them, which is actually how I met Sally, me down the Pony Express route.
Yes.
But yeah, and since then just doing stuff with company and Pony Express stuff, and yeah, really anything I can do.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'm wondering now, let's fast forward to 6. So this started in, if I'm correct, May of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you tell me a little bit about how did this start? What was the idea for it?
Yeah, for sure. So my friend Allie, one of my good friends, Allie Chamberlain, she had sort of come up with a sort of pipe dream. She really wanted to do 6 at our school, but we didn't know how we could pull it off. We didn't know what could happen. She didn't come to me first. She actually went to our choir and theater director, David Grossman. So she talked to him, and they were kind of talking about it, and then they both came to me, and we sort of had a little secret meeting, and talked about, okay, how could we pull this off and do this? We decided that the way that the schedule of all the theater that we do at North, like collectively with Plymouth North players, because of how that schedule worked out, it would need to be student run. Because we do a fall play, pretty much like the auditions are a first day of school. So there was no way that that Grossman could, get in on it or anything like that. So we're like, okay, student run. And it would have to be during the summer. And we decided, if we're going to do this, we have to make the most of it. We need to raise a bunch of money for our vocal music trip in April. So we decided that it would be a fundraiser. And then, yeah, things kind of started to kick off from there, we decided that we would test out a performance first to see if we could all work together and put something together. Because working with your peers is really difficult, and it's hard because you never want to step over the line, you never want to hurt friendships or anything, but you know, you are in the business of a creative process, so that's hard sometimes, but we wanted to figure out if we could do it. So we have in Plymouth, we have these things called coffee houses, which are basically like organized open mics. We decided that, okay, let's get a bunch of these girls together. And let's just say we're just going to perform X Wives, the opening number. And so they didn't know about our plans to do the full show. It went great. And then me and Allie said, okay, let's tell them. We told them, and they were all in and all ready. And then we said, okay, let's figure this out. We're going to do it.
Okay, that's so cool. So then walk me through, so I'm assuming that you had to license the show, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So, yeah. Basically, when we were talking to Grossman, we, we decided it would have to be student run, but we would need help getting the rights.
Yeah.
Because we decided it would be a fundraiser. The Visual and Performing Arts Department was okay putting down money for the rights. So they funded that. Grossman was basically like, okay, I'm going to be sort of a producer. I will help you along the way. We're going to put down the money for the rights. When it comes to directing and all that stuff, that's all you guys. But they were awesome in doing that, because we couldn't have done it without the rights, obviously.
Yeah. So then, okay, so now you have the rights, and then what's the next step after that?
Yeah, so that was honestly, I think that was our biggest hurdle in the whole thing, was figuring out where do we start.
Yeah.
So because we decided, it was going to be student run. Okay, who takes on what role? How do we do this? So we talked with each other, we talked with Grossman, we thought on things for a while, and we decided, okay, here are some roles that we need. We're going to need a tech coordinator. We're going to need somebody to do schedule stuff. We're going to need a stage manager. We're going to need all these things, and we're going to need to delegate who directs what and all that stuff. So I believe we had a meeting with everybody. Grossman had typed up this big document just about like, okay, listen, this is how rehearsals are going to go, and then we're going to talk about roles. So in talking about how rehearsals were going to go, we had to say, okay, we can't be interrupting each other. We have to be, respecting what each other says. We really have to put in the work to make sure that we're respecting our peers, because it was really difficult to teach your peers, but also be one and decide who and is sort of leading the ship and when. So we kind of had that meeting about that, and then we discussed roles. And I think just, it was honestly a pretty general consensus about how it went. We decided I would be the tech coordinator. So I would, communicate with our stage manager, Abby, and all the tech team, and figure out, what are we going to do? Okay, those lights are great. You should come here, sound people, all that stuff. Yeah. Allie was going to be the scheduler. So she decided, what's happening at rehearsal, when is it happening, where is it happening, figuring out what things need to be in on time and deadlines and stuff. Paige, who played Catherine Parr, is our music director. So, helping us with music, giving us notes and all that stuff. I think that's, oh yeah. And then Molly, who played Jane Seymour, she would be our sort of like public relations and then like social media advertiser person. And then for directing, we ended up deciding it would just be a lot easier if everyone directed their own song. So choreographing that, and then the scene that had to do with their character, they would do that. Paige, who played Catherine Parr again, she was already taking a lot on with the role of music director, and she just, we're all very busy, so she didn't feel like choreographing. So those were some things that we all split up. and I ended up doing her song, choreographing her song, I Don't Need Your Love. But Paige did help out a lot in terms of directing, blocking, and stuff like that.
That is so fascinating and so cool. And I love that like you did the thing where it's like each of the wives did their own staging. That is
Yeah.
so cool. And so I'm wondering now, like, so you worked, so this started in May and we worked over the summer. Was
Mhm.
it a super intensive summer rehearsal process?
So basically, we kind of start doing the preliminary stuff in May. We figure everything out by June for the most part. We
Yeah.
start rehearsing when school ends. But it's pretty slow at first because honestly, it's a student-led production. We're figuring it out as we go. So we started doing rehearsals about once a week.
Wow.
And then, conflicts, family vacations, all that sort of stuff, camps and things like that. We're having for probably like a lot of July. We were all busy and going different places and traveling and all sorts of stuff. But throughout that, we still kept in contact and said, okay, make sure you have this, this, and this. In terms of the rehearsal process, we pretty much went chronologically throughout the show. So it was like, okay, Lily, have No Way choreography ready by this rehearsal and stuff like that. But I'd say after the beginning half of the summer, we really kicked it into high gear, and we probably had 2 rehearsals a week. And towards the end, we were rehearsing like every day.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious with finding the choreography, finding the staging, what resources did you use? Did you use new resources? And what were you excited to basically do? Because I'm assuming that you really liked Six as a musical.
Mhm.
So was it fun to take on a different side where it was creative and you could really do the whole process the way that like you wanted it to be? What was that? How did you feel during that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I love, I mean, I don't really know what I'm saying when I say we can all speak for ourselves because we all love Six. I think the idea of all of it being in our hands was both so exciting and terrifying.
Uh-huh.
Because, just in one song Catherine sings, my song No Way, it's a 3 or 4 minute song, not super long song, but there's so much that can be done in that
Uh-huh.
amount of time. And so it was really like, okay, how hard do we want to go? Are we
Yeah.
doing, is the vibe step touch or is the vibe pas de bourrée and kick out layout? You know what I mean? It's like we had to we had to decide, how hard we were going to go. And I think that me and Allie had a few discussions about that and like, okay, what's the reality of how hard we can go here? And we decided on let's go as hard as we can. And if it happens like in the end that it's, you know, a mess, then we can simplify from there. But if we're doing this ourselves, we may as well go all in. So yeah, I think the first step in figuring out where to go in the creative process was looking at the queens that helped inspired or the pop singers that inspired the queens. So for me, for Catherine of Aragon, her pop singer inspiration is Beyonce. So one of the first things I did is I watched a ton of her music videos. I watched a ton of her live performances. Homecoming Live, her Renaissance tour, watched Single Ladies, watched, Telephone with her and Lady Gaga, all of that, and decided to really study her movement
Yeah.
and inflection and all that stuff, because she really does serve as a big inspiration for Catherine of Aragon. And so it was that and kind of getting down the vibe of, okay, this is sort of, I want to include some of these moves in it. And I think, for me, I've been dancing for a long time. If I hear music, it comes into my head. I don't know how to describe it. It's like, some people can just like write songs like that. It just,
Mhm.
I don't know. I think once you've been doing something for a long time, that just happens. But I listened to all the numbers that I choreographed
Uh,
over and over and over again. Um, and I would record myself like on Snapchat, like doing a combination that I made up, and I'd say, okay, no, I don't like that, or that's going to be too hard, or how are we going to do that with costumes and stuff? And then I would revise and revise. But um, I think it was really fun because I didn't really have to meet any specific criteria.
mhm.
It was just like I'm just dancing and having fun. So it was really like making it as original as I can while also putting in those elements of Beyonce.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when it came to I choreographed some of the group numbers as well. And those were more like, okay, how can we create something that, works for everybody when we're all in like extremely heavy, thick costumes, when we're holding mics, when we're doing all this stuff. So that was a lot of coming up with stuff and then in rehearsal saying, okay, does this work? No, that doesn't work. We're going to figure that out.
That is so cool. I'm so like inspired and impressed about like all the research, because we don't know, as the audience, we don't go in knowing how much, and I wasn't sure. And it's so cool that like it wasn't like, oh, we're just gonna do like what was done on Broadway. It was like, let's really like, as like real dramaturgs, like looking at it, was I'm so impressed.
Thank you. Well, absolutely. Because I think, you know, Broadway is amazing. Broadway's great. Broadway's like, tippity top of theater. But why when we have the opportunity to show, why just copy what somebody else has already done? You know what I mean? I think the point of theater is to bring creativity and new ideas and new emotions and get new people involved. Because, why go to our show if it's not any different than something else that's been done? So yeah, it was a lot of research in terms of, choreography and stuff like that. But also, I spent a lot of time researching history of the queens themselves, taking lots of notes and watching lots of videos on what they wore, on what their real stories were, because so much of the show is uncovering the truth of, hey, no, that's actually not how the story went. Henry told it the wrong way. What actually happened is this.
Yeah.
And it was honestly really like emotional but very rewarding to read about the lives of these queens, and just how they've been done so dirty over history. But like for Catherine of Aragon, like it was so cool to read about her history. She, came over from Spain when she was 16 to marry Henry's brother. Henry's brother Arthur passed away, so then she was kept in England, basically in prison for 7 years until Henry came of age, because they didn't need her. They had no use for her until Henry came of age.
Hmm.
Then he comes of age and stuff. She serves for 24 years as queen, and she's very beloved by the people of England. They love her. She's very good at her job and she loves it. She was the first female ambassador in European history. So she did diplomatic relations between her home country of Spain and England. And you know what my favorite fun fact about her is uh, she was serving as regent, which is basically like ruler of the country, for England while Henry was away in Scotland.
Hmm.
And she literally rode into battle while pregnant with armor on a horse into battle.
That is incredible.
Like she and you know what is we're not told that. We're
Hmm.
told that here are 6 wives, and
Yeah.
that's what they were. So a lot of that research um was like therapeutic in a way, was just
Yeah.
like, because I think that it really reinstated what this project means to us. Yes, it is a fundraiser. Yes, it's amazing because it's student directed, but it's also amazing because of the content of the story.
That is, oh my goodness, incredible. And it actually leads me to a question that I had, which was like, why do you think Six is essential for the now And do you think that, and are you glad that you're a part of that in a way?
Absolutely. I mean, I, you know, I think anybody that has performed any musical or even watched it or read it or knows about it is a part of that art piece already. Because if you've been inspired by it, if you have been touched by it, if you have been able to use it to inspire other people, you're a part of that art. And I think that that's great. And being able to really direct and make this art ourselves, and gift it to people was incredible because of the story that it is. Six is so incredibly important. It always has been, but it especially is now, um, in a time when it seems like we're going backwards
Yeah.
instead of forwards. And I wrote a little bit about this in the program, but this show is really about women telling their story unapologetically and saying, no, this is what happened. I am important because of who I am. I'm not important because I was married to some awful man.
Yeah.
It's about that, and it's about, honestly, it's just like, I don't know. There's so many words because it's so profound. I don't even know how to describe it. It's about like claiming an identity
Mhm.
after, being labeled as what your job is in terms of how you serve men.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're labeled as wives because that's who you are to men.
Mhm.
This is about reclaiming an identity, saying
Mhm.
that's not my job. You know,
Mhm.
this is my name, this is my story, this is who I am. And something that I love that the writers of Six did is it's just the six queens.
Yeah.
Henry is not a character, nobody else is a character. So it removes any attention towards Henry.
Yeah.
Because, one of the big lessons in it, and that, we say at the end, as a group, is, maybe Henry is famous because of us, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was, um, just a very therapeutic thing to do as young women, and also a very important stories to tell, today. And I think those stories always will be, no matter how much, social progress is made, no matter, how much, change is made for women. I think it's always important to know the fact that these women were silenced and were not allowed to speak their truths. But here is a piece of art that we've made to tell you what really happened, and do it in such a fun way.
Yeah.
And something that was really awesome is there were so many little girls who went, um and it was one of those, like, what was I made for Barbie moments,
Yep.
where I just, like, and afterwards they were asking for pictures with all of us, and that's what makes it worth it, when you know that somebody else, specifically a young girl, has watched what, you've made with your, friends that are all young women now. And I don't know, that impact is really special.
Wow. You inspire me so much.
Oh
It's
my
all,
God, girl, stop it.
it's like all the, I was like, there are so many quotes that I can get from like just what you said that seem to me that like change the cultural world. That just
Girl,
like everything.
it is simply because I never stop talking. Don't.
I started to have tears in my eyes.
Oh.
Anyway, I want to talk a little bit also about costuming because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you did a lot of the costuming. And so I'm wondering, and through your research, but also with these really iconic and creative costumes, what was your lens for it? And also like how did how did you make them?
Yeah, so this is honestly one of the most, like, I could talk about this all day because it was such a journey to figure this
Mhm.
out. Um, Me and, well, when we first started thinking about doing Six, I
Mhm.
would I would be, in Spanish class drawing up sketches for, I literally have some, like, in my notebook, like, for
That's the time when
queens.
that work gets done.
What?
Best time when the best work gets done.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And I was never, planning on, oh, these are going to be official sketches. It was just, I'm thinking about this musical and I love it and I just want to draw something from it. But then I kept getting more interested in them and I kept making more sketches and more sketches. And I thought, you know what, we have to figure out costumes. I'm just going to ask the girls if they're okay with, me taking some charge on that. Talked to them about it. They were like, cool. And then we got Madeline Woomer involved, who does costume stuff for Plymouth North Players at North. And she is an incredible artist and she's very good at what she does.
Yeah.
So I was like, absolutely, because there's no way I can do this by myself.
Uh-huh.
So in the beginning of the summer, we started meeting up. And I sort of showed her a bunch of the research that I did. It was a lot of watching like old British YouTubers explain history or what they were wearing and stuff, because what was important to me is I knew both the historical context of what they would wear and like the sort of like interesting ways to bring a modern take to it.
Yeah.
Because really that's what it is. It's like historical, traditional Tudor silhouettes with the material and colors of a modern day pop group.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure I understood both, which is why I spent a lot of time understanding the layers of what they would wear, which is like insane. I don't know how they were not sweating well, they definitely were. All of them were sweating for hours. I mean, it's insane what they were forced to wear. But and so I did a lot of research with that, and then I looked into the pop stars that inspired the queens a lot and what would they wear and what's their colors and the silhouettes that they would wear. So I brought that all to Madeline and kind of gave a brief history and personality rundown of all the queens. And then we kind of went back and forth with, okay, here's my sketch for this queen. Here's your sketch for this queen. Let's combine them. Let's figure out this stuff. Once we had all of those, we met with all of the girls, made sure, do you like this? Do you not like this? Is there anything you want to wear, you don't want to wear? Especially because this is a student run production, like all the time, but especially because we were all in on this, like we want everyone's say, and we don't want anybody to go up there and be like, I feel gross, I don't feel pretty, I don't feel good. Like, the costume should always accentuate the character and the personality, not the other way around. So yeah, we did that. And then it from there, it was like, okay, crap. It was a little bit of like, okay, we have these big ideas. How the hell are we going to do it? Like, so then came product research and material research.
Yeah.
We, then realized, where are we going to get this money from? like, girl, we don't, the only funding we got was for the rights. We're doing everything else ourselves. So, it was a lot of me going to the dollar store and buying any and all sparkly things there. And it was that. And then Allie's grandmother, like, we owe her such a huge thank you. She gave us an $100 check just for, she was just kind and she's just sweet. Oh my God. Did you hear that alarm?
No, I did not.
An alarm just went off. I was like, oh my God. But Allie's grandmother gave us that $100, and that really, really helped. And honestly, as a whole, we probably spent maybe less than $200 on everything for all the costumes.
Wow.
Which is really cool. And we knew our budget was tight. So we said, okay, what can we do? I went to the dollar store. I went to Five Below. I, looked on Amazon, but we didn't buy anything off of Amazon. It's too expensive. Even something that was $20, it's like, we can't get that for all of the girls. Our $100 is out. So we decided, okay, let's have a big costume day. We said to the girls, everybody come over with anything and everything that your character could wear, that somebody else's character could wear: shoes, accessories, dresses, skirts, pants, shirts, anything. So like my house was like a jungle gym for like 3 weeks because it was just all of my friends' clothes everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
Uh but because we needed those bases, because we, me and Madeline both know how to sew, but it was going to take way too much time and money to do everything from scratch. So we said, okay, let's get our bases down and then decorate on top. So it
Yeah.
became a lot of trial and error of, okay, this works, that doesn't, this works, that doesn't. We ended up using a lot of black duct tape,
Yes.
Gorilla Glue,
Yes.
yes, hot glue, anything and everything that we could find. And like, actually, I'm not even joking you, Oliver, they're following me everywhere. I have these gems still on me. I'm not even joking, I found some on like the bottle of my toothpaste. They're following me everywhere.
That's
crazy. I know.
The punishment.
What?
The punishment we get.
I know, seriously. But yeah, so we did that, and in terms of all the decorations and embellishments and stuff, there's a lot of, again, dollar store stickers that I hot glued or Gorilla Glued, and then random ribbons that we found around houses and stuff like that. And then even like we had to learn how to use unconventional things,
Yeah.
to make things happen. So I found push pins at the dollar store that the top of them were perfect for my costume. So I ripped off the pin part of it with wire cutters and just hot glued the top of it right onto it. So it was a lot of like, okay, that's not exactly what we need, but it looks like it, so let's modify that. When it came to the skirts, because that was a whole thing. I think three of us, me, Allie, and Paige, who play Catherine of Aragon, Catherine Parr, and Catherine Howard. We all had, the big skirts. You can see something similar to them in the original Broadway and West End version, where they jut out really aggressively.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a halo around your waist. We were coming up with all sorts of ideas. We were, I tried folding yoga mat, I tried foam, I tried, all of that. I made like belts out of like random bandanas and materials and stuff like that. And honestly, I think that would have been fine. But I was at Madeline's house and we were talking to her dad about it because he's a carpenter. And we were like, yeah, like, I don't know, what do you think we could do? And immediately he goes, oh, you guys need dog cones. And I was like, what? He was like, no, like dog cones, like cones for a dog. That's what you need.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, you're so right. Why didn't we think of this before? Within minutes, Madeline's mom, like, we owe so much to their family and her parents. Within minutes, Madeline's mom goes over to her neighbor's house and gets a dog cone from her that she knew she had. And her name's Neighbor Nancy. We love you, Neighbor Nancy. She came on over. She goes, yeah, I have this. If you need any ribbon, you need anything, just let me know. Yeah. And then we said, okay, this is awesome. We need more. So Madeline reached out to anybody and everybody that we knew that had dogs. And we said, do you have dog cones that you're not using? And it became picking up dog cones from people's houses, having them drop them off. We used alleys. We used, yeah. So eventually we got 3 really good solid dog cones. There was Velcro on some. I used a seam ripper and ripped some of that off. And I said, okay, let's get to duct taping. And then what we did is we attached belts to them. and zip tied them in and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that was the finishing touch. The dog cones really made it good.
That is like crazy, but so cool.
Yeah, it was no, my belt was literally made out of like one of those like iPhone holder things that goes around you. Like I got it at Five Below and it was gold and had these little chains on it and I was like, perfect. Did that, cut it up, attached it to my skirt, and then to actually attach it to me while I was performing, I just zip tied it really tight.
That is that is everything. And the costumes looked so good from the audience. And the pictures, like everything looked so good. And to know the creative process is so interesting. And also because like a lot of the times it's just like, oh, we have that costume already, or like we can, and it's so cool to figure out like really going back to like the theater roots of like how do we creatively make something.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this was not only such a challenge for us, but also so like validating in a way of like, yeah, this was really hard, but it got our brains turning and now, we know our strengths. We know, how capable we are. And we also know how thankful to be towards our theater directors and all of our teams for working so hard to do stuff for us on a regular basis. So yeah, costumes probably was one of the hardest parts about it. But it ended up so worth it because when we lined up everyone and it all clicked, I was like, me and Madeline really got choked up. We were like, oh my God, we did that. And again, it was a little ratchet sometimes. It was a lot of duct taping people into their costumes, a lot of zip ties,
Yes.
a lot of electrical tape. Yeah, no, I was using like the gold details on my sleeves. Those are just like dollar store Mardi Gras beads.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
like, so it was, I think me and Madeline for the last week that we were making costumes, I think we were kind of like, this looks pretty good from afar. Are people gonna get the vibe? Are people gonna think they look good? And then when we really saw them on stage with lighting and everything,
It's all
I
good.
got a low battery thing.
I know they're not friends, so it's all good.
But when we saw it on stage with lighting and everything, we were like, okay, wow, did the dollar store really come from clutch?
Yes. Yes, we love the dollar store. I have one final question
Yeah.
that I'm excited for. I think it's my best written question. We'll see how well I say it. So now having done multiple different parts of the creative process to put a musical together, are there certain roles that you would like to continue, say directing, for example, and if so, like what has this experience, like what's one valuable lesson from each department that you've learned? And does and like a follow-up with that, does seeing the work and the time given into each department, does that really um enrich your love of the theater, but also like your appreciation?
Yeah. Okay. So I love this question. Hold on to your hats because I'll probably be talking for a while.
That's all right.
Um,
That's the goal.
yes.
Yes.
So yeah, I honestly, I struggle with this a lot because I love everything that has to do with theater. And so when I think about being put down one lane, it's really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I love being involved in so much of it. But
Yeah. I'm the same way. Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely love directing. It can be so incredibly frustrating and so difficult, but it is also so much fun and so rewarding. With costumes, I absolutely love doing it. I don't know if I can like see myself down the future, really doing that consistently, but it will always be something that I'm interested in and always, want to participate in if I can. But who knows where the road will go. And obviously I love performing, and so those things of that kind of thing of being on the stage and behind the stage, if you will, it's kind of like, well, which one do I like more?
Uh,
I don't know. And so I honestly, I can't ever see myself picking one.
yeah,
Um, so I just kind of see myself, picking per project what do I want to do in this project, and yeah, and figuring that out, because I I hate this culture of like this is your path and that's what you do and that's all you do. It's crap. It's not realistic. Like, your life changes and it takes you down different directions, and you're allowed to do multiple things. You can be a doctor and you can be a science teacher. You can be a writer and a performer. You can, you know, you can't necessarily do it all at once, but you can do it all.
yeah,
Um and so I think that's a goal of mine, is to let myself have sort of that open road and see where it takes me, because I do really love all of it. When it comes to lessons that I've learned from each department, I think, let's see, directing, definitely learned a lot. It's hard to like sum it up into one thing. I think um like being okay with things not going as planned,
yeah,
because that's the thing that gets really frustrated when you have a specific idea in your mind and then it doesn't come out like that, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, life isn't perfect. It can't always happen that way. So I think just being prepared for the unexpected,
yeah,
for when things go south, for, you know, when things get confusing or wonky. Um, I think a really important job, uh, one of the many important like factors of a director, um, is being able to kind of hold the fort down
yeah,
and do so calmly,
yeah,
um, and sort of be the rock. And so that means a lot of the time, okay, you're saying, okay, that didn't work. All good. What are we going to do now? Um, and so I think that this experience really just emphasized the importance of that for me. Yeah, I think with costuming, definitely, like, you can plan as much as you want to.
uh,
And then this is the same thing with everything in theater.
yeah,
But sometimes it's not going to work, and that's okay. I think that something that me and Madeline both wish we did for both of our crazy schedules is start physically making things sooner,
mhm,
because we really like started making and finished the costumes in a matter of like 3 weeks.
wow,
The rest of it was buying things, was planning, was
yeah,
asking the girls, does this work, does it not? So I think a big thing with all of this is just time management. Time management is not one of my best skills, but theater really requires it. So it's this experience as a whole, I think, was very important in teaching that. In terms of performing, I think something that I learned is, in a sort of technical sense, um, you're never giving enough. You're never giving enough. If you think that you're going 10, you're only going 2, and you got to go 100. You know what I mean? It's because there are times when we would videotape our rehearsals,
uh,
and so I'd watch it back and I'd go, "Oh my God, I thought I was serving."
yes,
And
I
I'm
know,
and and I'm up there like
yeah,
like like you have to go so much harder than you think you do. And I realized that, I think, in other shows and stuff, but this show specifically really taught me that, because everyone has to be on and really confident the whole time. Um yeah, and as a whole, this production definitely, emphasized my love for theater, um, because we literally did it all ourselves. And I think the biggest thing that really solidified that was that feeling of getting up on the stage, and after the first song, people were on their feet and they were clapping for 10 minutes. Now, does it matter how long people were clapping or the other people's opinions? Absolutely not. But there was that sense of validation of like, wow, we really did make an impact. Um, and the feeling of knowing that we did it ourselves,
Yeah.
that we put in this work, that it was our blood, sweat, and tears, that these were our ideas. Like, that's such a just, it's almost such a, it's such an overwhelming feeling of joy that it's almost humbling,
Hmm.
where it's like you're so proud that you just, it was a feeling of just being so proud and excited that now it's in the audience's hands. It's not
Yeah.
up to me anymore. It's for you guys. And yeah, I think it was just, it was incredible for all of our friendships. I think, we working together for so long. It was a test in friendship for sure. There were times where we all got annoyed at each other, but there were times where we had to say, okay, this isn't personal. We're just, we have to work this out. Okay, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? And that's okay. And we're all stronger friends because of it now. It was, connecting on that level of being women and the story that we're telling. It was connecting on our love for creating and theater and the stress of it all. It was connecting on all of that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense, but
Oh, Lily, everything is making sense. I'm so many mental notes right now. Like, I have basically been changed by our conversation, and I'm
oh,
not
please.
exaggerating. It's so cool, and it's so cool to see because the show was so good, and it was like because once I saw it on social media, I was like, this is so cool, and then you get to see it all come to life and learning how the process and the challenges and how you overcame them is even more like my jaw's on the floor. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Lily, for hopping on.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, I kid you not, you texted me and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, you keep saying nice things about me, but truly, like, since I learned that you literally have been running your own production company, like, and what, you started when you were in like eighth grade or something? When did you
I'm
start? Fifth grade?
8 years old.
You were how many years old?
8.
You were 8 years old.
Yes.
Like, girl, you are my inspiration. Like, I just,
Oh,
I love how at such a young age you've been able to say, okay, I just want to do it, so I'm going to do it. I'm not going to wait for the opportunity to arise. I'm going to make it myself. Like, that is something that we really had to harbor for six. And so we just, I really appreciate that initiative. It's really awesome.
thank you. I'm sending that all back to you. All right. Thank you all so much for watching Conversations with. Stay tuned for our next episode. Have a great weekend.